one of the most successful female recording artists out of the 80s and pretty much of all time. I grew up loving you, loving you, loving you. I will adore you throughout this entire interview. But I find what's really cool is that you are, um, not only an accomplished actress and artist, but you're the first and only recording artist to make it with a top 5 hit on several different charts on Billboard. That's amazing. Sheena Easton, welcome, welcome. Hi.
I thank you. Well, listen, I have to give Kenny Rogers credit for giving me my country hit. Otherwise, I probably would never have had a country hit. So Kenny is the one that got me that little claim to fame.
Oh, totally. I mean, I want to start off the interview talking about this because 9 to 5 went to the top of the pop and AC charts. We've got tonight, of course, with Kenny, got you to #1 on country, and then Sugar Walls flew up R&B and dance, right? And back in the day, and I hate saying this because then it makes us all feel old, but like seriously, decades ago, you didn't have as many crossover artists as we
Yeah.
do now. So for you to be so versatile and be such an incredible crossover artist, how did that make you feel getting on all of these different chart genres?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I grew up in Scotland. We didn't have uh, our radio system was very different from American radio. When I came over to the States, I knew that if I went to a certain number on the dial, it was a country station, or it was a pop station, or it was a dance station, or it was a talk station. Whereas I had Radio 1 and Radio 2. That's what we had. Radio 1 was the pop stuff, and Radio 2 was the stuff your mom and dad listened to. And it played such a wide range. You would have David Bowie, followed by Jim Reeves, followed by a novelty song, followed by Carly Simon. It was just like a mixture of things. And then being the youngest of 6 kids in the family, I would steal my brothers and sisters' vinyl records and I would play them in my room. So I was listening to Shirley Bassey and Steely Dan and Yes,
Yeah.
and all the singer songwriters and everything you heard on the radio. So my little young ears were absorbing all these different styles. So it when I would get up and perform when I joined my first little club band when I was 17 at college, we sang every style of music and it just felt naturally to me because that's what I was used to hearing. So I knew that I could sing. So
Yeah.
when it came to recording and releasing albums, I think a lot of American artists of my generation were afraid because they knew they were supposed to be in a box or in a certain place and not do anything outside of that little box. I didn't have that. I didn't have that kind of shackling me. I felt free. I just wanted to make the music that I liked. And I wasn't intimidated by the box that I was supposed to fit in. So I think I was just lucky that I came from the outside and I didn't have the baggage with me.
So let's talk about the hit with Kenny Rogers we've got tonight, of course, written by the great Bob Seger. And Bob Seger put it out a few years before. And for people that are watching and listening and aren't familiar, it's very interesting to listen to Bob's version and then to listen to your version with Kenny. How did that come about? I think it was uh what was it? Larry Mazza. Was Larry Mazza a part of that because you guys were on the same label together and then Larry said this seems like an interesting pair? Is that how that
Yeah,
came to be?
Jim Mazza
Oh,
was
Jim
his name.
Mazza. Okay.
Jim,
Jim
yeah,
Mazza.
he was in charge at the record company, and Kenny was recording at the time. And
Okay.
Kenny had already gone from being solely a country artist. He'd already crossed into the pop charts, and he had a bunch of pop hits. And he was continuing that vein of walking both sides of the line, so to speak. And Kenny, I think, had the idea to record the song as a duet, but it was Jim who said, "Hey, why don't you do it with Sheena?" And so when we did it, anything else I've ever done as a collaboration, I've always worked with the artists in the room, but that one, Kenny had recorded his side of the vocals. So he had it was, you know, his style, it was his choice, it was his artistic sense and the producer's sense that created how that song felt. I had to hear it and slot into it and kind of feel how I would interpret it and how I could, you know, sing around and weave around his voice and make it work as a duet. And we were lucky that when it was finished, our voices did sound good together. And so, you know, I guess they decided to keep it as a duet. And they released it pretty quickly after I finished my vocals. It was mixed and it was out very quickly. So I think Kenny really enjoyed the end result.
I mean, do you guys sit and listen to the original version, or do you just look at the lyrics and maybe have a different kind of demo before you're like, okay, yeah, we want to tackle this and to get your own version to go on that? How does that work for you?
As I said, I had Kenny's voice on there as a roadmap for the feel, the rhythm, the phrasing of, you know, how we were going to do it. Of course, I knew Bob's song, you know, it was such a huge hit, and
Yeah.
Bob Seger's such a great artist that I already had that in my head. I knew what the melody was, but it's like, you know, I guess it's like a lot of acting roles that you do. If there's been a performance of something you're doing, you shouldn't just study that, then go in and try and copy it. You know, you got to bring your own thing to it, or what's the point in doing it? So I deliberately didn't keep listening to Bob's version. I didn't want that stuck in my head. I wanted to approach it as if it was a new thing. And because it was a duet and because Kenny was on there, that gave me the chance to approach it as a new concept.
And I love your version of it because it to me, I love that it soared up to number one on the country chart. Don't get me wrong, but to me, I don't listen to that and necessarily hear it as like a country hit. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Because even though it's Kenny Rogers' voice, which is just such a prolific voice and profound, and you know that voice as soon as you hear it, right?
Hmm.
He definitely took a little bit of a different tone than he did in some of his other songs that didn't steer it directly to country, which is great because
Hmm.
that could be that wonderful crossover hit. And I love that for you guys.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah,
Did you enjoy
you're
working
right.
with Kenny?
Oh, I mean, as I said, in the studio, we didn't record together, but he invited me out. He was out performing live touring, and he invited me to come and perform at some of the big arenas he was in, and we performed it live. And then I did it as part of a TV special that I had, and I had him come on and sing it with me on my TV special. So
Mhm.
we got to sing it. And in fact, we sang it not too many years ago on the 50th anniversary of something with Kenny, like our 60th. It was an anniversary of his career, and he had, you know, so many of it. Dolly was there, and Winona, and I mean, there was just so many different artists there that had worked with Kenny, and we all did a big live event and sang with him, and that was filmed and that was released as a big special. So it was lovely to get to sing it with him many years after the fact. And that voice, as you said, when you hear it, you don't have to ask who it is. It's one of those unique voices, and it stayed the same right to the end. It was
Right? Isn't
awesome.
that amazing? Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing?
Hmm.
Um, Speaking of, you've been performing and had such an incredible career, and you're touring now, and I love that. You're touring from now until November, and then you're taking a little break and hitting it back in 2026. You're coming to
No, I'm
Oh,
performing all
you are
December.
going through December?
I'm
Okay.
doing a holiday show all of December with Peebo Bryson, so I don't really take a
I mean,
break until next
come
summer
on.
again.
You're killing us here. You and
Yeah,
Peebo?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's that's beautiful. That's
It's
special.
going to be Peebo and Ruben Studdard, and
Nice.
we're going to be basically doing a gig every night from Thanksgiving through Christmas. So it'll be fun.
And where is that gonna be?
All over,
All
literally. I
over.
mean, it's
Okay.
all over. I think we start in the East Coast and we go through to the West Coast. We
Okay, I'm
put
gonna
as
have to
many
look for
dates
those
as we
dates.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Okay. I mean, I love Peebo, I love Ruben, love you, Sheena, so that's gonna be an incredible show. Are you gonna do holiday tunes?
Yeah, it's a holiday show. So
Yeah,
we do.
okay.
I think all of us are doing, a couple of our hits and a couple of holiday tunes, and every artist comes out and does a little bit, and come on stage, leave, and that kind of thing. It'll be fun.
What can people
Looking
expect
forward
that
to it.
have never seen you before? And they're a huge Sheena Easton fan. They're buying the tickets, they're coming to the show because you've done Broadway, you've done movies, you've done TV, you've done all of your hits and worked with so many great artists. What can people expect when they take that seat and see you take the stage?
Well, when it's not a holiday show, when it's just my show, what I've learned after performing for the 40 odd years that I've been doing it. What am I, 66 now? So yeah, a lot of years.
You
Um,
don't look it, lady. You don't look it. Don't look it.
trust me.
Beautiful.
Um, you're gonna hear the hits. That's what you're gonna hear when you come. I don't do that thing where you try to make it interesting and surprising and just do a bunch of weird, interesting, experimental stuff. People leave unhappy because they want to walk down memory lane.
Mm,
And so I try to put in the hits that I know people are hoping for and expecting, and then I throw in some curveballs. I have some cover tunes, some songs by writers that mean something to me, and I kind of tell a story as we go through the show, and people get to know me and I get to know the audience, and at the end of it, we have a great time. I have the best musicians. I bring such a great band, and I have such a great duet partner with me, and we just, often, like, I have fans that come back. I see faces in the shows. They travel
yeah.
across the country. They come to shows all the time, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think some of them are coming for the band. They're not coming for me because the band is so great. So
Right.
that's
Right.
one thing. There's great musicianship in the set. Is that
Yeah.
your dog barking?
That is my dog barking. I guess she's
You
very
know,
excited. She wants to come see you, Sheena.
I love dogs. So if your dog jumps up, I'd be happy to scratch him
Come
behind the
on,
ear.
Georgie. Come on, come talk to Sheena. Um, I'm going to say something, and I don't know if this has ever been brought up in an interview, and I can't imagine that it hasn't been. There's a very clear shift between the Take My Time album and a Private Heaven album. Okay. And yes, I'm
Mhm.
going to go there. There is a very clear shift. When you go back and you watch
But
nine to
they're not
five,
back to back.
they
They're
were
not.
they're not back to back, but
No.
there's a very clear shift between when you go back and you watch the music videos
Mhm.
or Take My Time album and you see Sheena and 9 to 5 and you're pretty covered up, okay? And you've got this innocence to you and short hair. It's really sweet. And I watch all your videos. I love all your videos and all of your songs. And I play 9 to 5 on my show all the time. Love it. Um, and then then you're gonna get into Strut and Sugar Walls, okay? And
And the
there's a
lover in me, and
very
you got the look and all of that. Yeah.
yep, and yeah, I love oh my gosh, I went back and explored that again today. I love You Got the Look. When you go back and you see the videos and you watch them, there's a very clear shift in style and attitude and presence and
I
your
agree.
eyes. The cameraman, when you go back and you watch your videos, you're very seductive with your eyes and it's awesome. It's very cool, but it's like, what made you kind of come out of that more innocent Sheena bubble and go into exploring a more
Okay.
sensual side?
It makes sense if you think about it. The camera, the spotlight, so to speak, was on me since I was 19 going on 20. That's when I started recording, and my first thing was a hit. And from there, I didn't have any quiet time where I kind of spent 5 years growing up and then appeared on camera again. I had, there was always something I was doing, TV or performing or touring, whatever. When I did those very first records, the only experience I brought to that was being a high school kid and a college kid.
Mm.
Nothing else. That's all I had. I grew up in my small little hometown, and my biggest experience was going off to Glasgow to go to school. And I recorded while I was still in school. So that was the truly who I was, this young, sheltered person. And because I had a hit early on, I literally went around the world, physically all over the place, and had
Mm.
all these experiences and met all these different people and recorded more stuff and worked and did so many TV experiences, performed on the Oscars, the Grammys, all sorts of different things, to where I then naturally became more grown up, more sophisticated, more confident. I was no longer a young college kid. I was a young, you know, experienced woman, and I was bringing that to my music. My taste in what I was listening to musically, I could listen to an album, I could listen to another artist, and I could recognize somebody's bass playing on it because I'd worked with the dude in the studio, right? And I could look at fashion, and I had the confidence to wear something because I didn't care if people liked it on me or not. I liked it, thought it was fun. So I would wear it. When I was young, I was too self-conscious to do that. So I grew up quickly and I became experienced and more, I suppose, I don't ever think I was very sophisticated, but more confident as I was in that, mid 20s age. And that showed in how I looked and it showed in my music and it showed
Yeah.
in my style. It was just me growing up. There was nothing else to it other than here she is a kid and here she is a young woman.
True or false? Your the 80s was the ultimate decade for exploring fashion.
I don't know. I think, well, I mean, but it wasn't all great fashion. I mean, God, some of the things
No,
I
some of it
wore.
was horrible, but it was really fun.
Yeah. But it was fun. I think because punk exploded around the time I was coming up too,
Yeah.
that all the rules were broken. If you wanted to wear, black leather and pink lace, you could do that. There was no kind of like, oh, that doesn't look good. People just did what they wanted. So it was a lot of fun. Um, there wasn't a lot of cohesion to it, but it was a lot of fun.
Do you still have the strut outfit from the video?
The Strut, is that the yellow shirt and the
No, that was the, like, goldish black, sparkly it was almost like a short suit, it was really cool.
Strut video? I can't remember. I mean, there might be stuff in a warehouse somewhere. I was never terribly, I mean, I was never Beyonce. Beyonce's costumes belong in a museum. There's certain artists that have costumes constructed and made, and they're theatrical pieces. My stuff was never like that. I was just,
I
I'd
don't
go
know,
get
this is
something
pretty
fun
cool,
from a
Sheena, like, I
boutique.
I could see this in a museum, like, this is pretty cool, go back,
Oh,
watch it. Yeah, I'm curious if you have that hanging in your closet somewhere, and
I
if you
can't
do,
remember.
find it.
I definitely don't, and if I did, I know I wouldn't fit into it anymore. That's for sure.
I'd ask to borrow it, but I wouldn't fit into it either, so there you go. You won Best New Artist in 1982 at the Grammy Awards. You beat out the Go-Go's and Adam Ant and James Ingram and Luther Vandross. That's amazing. Pointer Sisters, and there's Georgie again. But the Pointer Sisters, um, presented this award to you, and I love how they were like slow hand as they were opening up the envelope. But your acceptance speech was so incredibly humble. It was really cute to watch. It was very sweet the way that, and I wish that somebody would have moved the microphones down for you. Do you remember, if you like close your eyes, can you transport yourself back to that time and what it felt like to win in that that's a hard category to win. And you
Well,
did it, and
I
that's amazing.
I didn't have a speech written because I genuinely had no chance of winning that. I wasn't going there with my little speech in my pocket because I might win this. I just didn't expect to win it at all.
Right.
I was just very young and I was excited to be at the Grammys and see all these big stars up close and like, look who that is, look who that is. And, I was like, I was starstruck and bedazzled. I couldn't believe I was in the room. So
Yeah.
when they called my name, I was shocked. I didn't expect to get it. And I would have given it to Luther. That's who I would have picked that year because I love Luther Vandross. I mean, I loved him as a person. He was a lovely man. And what a voice.
Mm.
That's someone I wish I'd done a duet with. So, but you know what? I'm very grateful that they picked me, and I've got the little Grammy thing tucked away in a shelf in my office, and my kids will have it someday. So I'm grateful that I got it.
Yeah. Well, I think it went to the right person. I mean, yes, Luther has won many, 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 many. He had won many awards in his life and his career. But I think it was really you just there was something about female artists on the rise in the 80s. It was very cool to watch. And you were in great company, lady. You really were. I mean,
There's some great
there's just
artists coming up,
nothing
man.
quite like I mean, yes, there's 70s female artists that are in their own, that's their own separate bubble and that's beautiful. And we'll never touch that, right? But 80s female artists, and you are one of like, you know, the top. It's very cool. I love that.
God.
How do you feel
And
when
you
I say that? I'm just curious
Well, yeah, I don't see myself, as the top of anything. That's not something I think about. But when you talk about the '80s and being an '80s artist, which is definitely what I am. I mean, when there's '80s festivals, you'll see me on the bill a lot of the times. That's my peak genre for especially what a lot of people connect me with. But it's so weird. To me, the '80s was a million years ago, and it was also just yesterday. Sometimes, when I'm talking to somebody, a young person, and I'll mention something and I'll go, "Oh, but you were just a kid then." And they'll go, "No, I wasn't even born." And I think, no, of course you weren't even born. What am I talking about? I still, I forget that it's so long ago that there's musicians that I play with that weren't even born when I was having the hits that they're playing on.
Yeah.
So it's a long time ago, and it's interesting when you turn on the radio now and you hear new young artists and you hear them, you can go, oh, this guy listened to a lot of so and so. This guy listened to a lot of Prince, or oh, this person listened to a lot of Pat Benatar. You can hear the influences of other
Yeah.
artists in their music, and you go, we must be old when we're now influencing other stuff.
Yeah, totally. Um, you brought up Prince. Let's talk about Prince for a second. How did that relationship start? Because you had a nice chunk of your career with Prince. You
Yeah,
collaborated on a few projects. I love You Got the Look. He wrote Sugar Walls. Um, oh, Sugar Walls. I mean, uh, I'm assuming it means what we think it means, right? Can you confirm? Yes.
it means whatever you want it to mean. I mean,
Oh, okay, okay.
I think especially since I didn't write it, right? I have to interpret it too as a performer. But I think with any song, even songs that I have written and performed, I have people that interpret it a slightly different way than how I wrote it. But yeah, I think the song is probably what you're thinking it's about, in my opinion. Yeah,
Okay. No, I think it's very
it's about
cool.
candy.
Yeah, of a specific kind. Sure, we'll go with that. How did you get involved with Prince?
I How it was told to me was I was working in LA at the time. I actually had was in the process of recording Strut and that whole album. And I just did the Tonight Show. I used to do Johnny Carson quite a bit because Johnny was a lovely man. And he would always say, anytime you want to come back on, sweetheart, you come back on the show. So, I was always getting invited back on. And I was on performing on Johnny's show. And I don't even remember what song I did, but I was singing on it. and apparently, Prince was watching it in the studio, and his sound engineer was also working for me at a sister studio, and I guess he gave him a reel-to-reel tape, and he said, "Take that to Sheena, tell her to listen to it, and if she wants to record it, give me a call and we'll go into the studio." And I played it, and up comes this groove of Sugar Walls, and it has just such a great groove to it. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I knew it would fit in great with the other stuff in the album. So I called him up and I went over there. And he wasn't like what everyone told me. He wasn't this intimidating, strange, aloof person. First thing he did was tease me. He made fun of me. I teased him back, which he loved. And so we spent the first hour or so just joking and making fun of each other and telling stories and talking about when we were kids. And he was asking me about Scotland, and I was asking him about his childhood. And then when by the time we went in to do the vocals, I was really relaxed with him. And he liked what he heard, and he would occasionally, he would call me up when he'd come into town and he'd go, "You want to come to the studio and listen to what I'm doing? Or you want to come hang out? You want to go and grab a bite to eat?" I would be writing some lyrics and he would check them out and he would, encourage me to work on certain songs. And then we recorded. I mean, I don't know, I'm sure someone's counted it, but we recorded between his stuff that we wrote together, the stuff that I wrote that he did with other artists. We recorded a few things together. We definitely collaborated on stuff. We never worked. It wasn't just me and Prince, and not me working with anyone else at a big chunk of my career. I was always doing my own stuff, and
Right.
he would just step in and go, "Hey, you should check this song out. Maybe it'll work for you for what you're doing." So he would kind of step in and out of what I was doing creatively over
Well,
quite a few years.
it brought some really incredible projects to light and people just ate that up. I mean, unbelievable.
He was a great producer and a great writer, and what a sad, sad loss. It's
And I was able to
unbelievable.
see him. He came to Baltimore the year before he passed and did a concert for Baltimore because Baltimore had some issues, and I was able to squeeze in there and go and see it. Just, bucket list. That was awesome.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
So, born and raised in Scotland, I got to tell you, I've only been to Europe twice. I went to Italy, and then my other trip was to England and to Scotland. And
Oh, okay.
I love Scotland.
Which part
I
of
went
Scotland did you
I
go
went
to?
to Inverness,
Inverness,
and then
Edinburgh?
yep, Edinburgh. Went to the big castle there, big castle, and
Mhm,
took some pictures. It was
mhm.
fun. I found it incredibly charming. And here's the thing, Scotland, it's interesting when you were talking about the radio stations in Scotland, because one of my questions to you is, to me, it seems like Scotland has not produced an overabundance of artists. Okay. You're one of the biggest ones to come out of Scotland.
Annie Lennox,
Annie Lennox, the Proclaimers,
huge.
Shirley
Mhm.
Manson, and then recently Calvin
Lulu.
Harris and Louis Capaldi of recent,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
but it doesn't, when you compare the artists that have come out of Scotland to the artists that have come out of England or the artists that have come out of America. I mean, it's a very small, it's much smaller amount, right?
But the
So
population of Scotland, you could fit
is
the entire population of Scotland into California.
it's true. It's true. But it's interesting when you were talking about the radio and stuff, and maybe, how do you feel, even if it's a much smaller population, how do you feel that you were able to come out of Scotland and arise as an artist? Talk a little bit about, growing up there and some of the things that you were able to do to prepare you to launch for a career like this, because it's not something that you hear about all the time. It's interesting.
Well, there was nothing to prepare me for having the career that I had. I mean, nowadays you can be a kid from a tiny little town, you know, in the middle of nowhere, and you can have a very successful TikTok uh,
Mm.
channel, or is it a channel? I don't do social media.
Yeah, it's a
TikTok
TikTok channel. Yeah.
feed or whatever, whatever they do on TikTok or Instagram and YouTube and all the things that people, can expose their music and their art to the world through that. When I was growing up, you sang in the local bars, the local pubs, and that was it. If your dream was that you could maybe get a demo to a record company and then you'd make a record and get on the radio, and it was a very slow process, and there
Mm,
was no big explosion internationally from where you were. um, so I did what I could do, and that was when I was 17. I went to college and I joined my first band, and I did all of that. I sang in bars, I sang at weddings, I got up on stage and got paid $30, for singing for 5 hours, and um, got up, after 3 hours sleep and went to college and did my work, and then, went out and did my next gig. Um, and so there was nothing to prepare me. I think the thing that helped me, I suppose, is that I'd nothing to lose. I was young, I was hungry. I knew that I was getting a chance when I got the chance to do the TV documentary that opened the doors and gave me the chance to record. And then that record company liked me and gave me a long contract. Every single door that opened, I was terrified, and I had nothing that gave me any confidence that I was going to succeed. But it's
mhm,
that old thing of, if I didn't throw myself through that door, I knew I wouldn't. I knew I'd never follow my dream unless I went through the scary doors. So I just kept going through all the scary doors. And it's a cliche, but every time I had the confidence to go through a door, it went down a corridor and opened up two more doors that led to other things. And then that network of corridors just took me all over the world. And it all culminated in bringing together a career that wasn't planned. It was just follow this, follow that, follow this, take a chance, put yourself out there. Somebody hates you, don't care, put yourself out there again. You
mhm.
just keep doing it. And that, so there was no preparation. It was just the confidence of youth. Um, I really don't think that if I had started my professional career at 40, if I'd been teaching and singing on Saturday nights up until I was 40 and got a break, I probably wouldn't have had the career I have today, because I don't know if I would have had the confidence to hurl myself out those doors and down the hallways, because by the time you're 30 and 40, you're a bit more scared. But at that age,
Yeah.
I was like, I'll just go do it. Just let me do it. I don't care. I'll just go do it. And ill prepared or not, I did it.
How do you keep your vocals in tune and take care of yourself? Because I feel like a lot of artists that have been doing this for decades, like a good friend of mine is a vocal coach, and he takes care of Kenny Loggins, and so I feel like you're always needing to take care of your vocals, and what do you do to prepare to hit the stage after decades of being on it?
Well, I'm 66 now, and the physiology is different from when you're 26. It's like asking a 66-year-old gymnast to give the same Olympic performance that they did when they were
Yeah,
26,
yeah.
or a swimmer or a football player or anybody that uses their body. And so even though people just hear the voice, your whole body goes into that to produce
Yes.
that sound. So I try to stay physically fit and healthy. I've never smoked, although I know a lot of great singers that do smoke and it doesn't seem to affect them. But I stay away from the stuff that to me obviously would hurt my voice. And I give it rest and I exercise it every day. But I don't care if you are 26 or you're 36 or 66 or 106, you can be out there working. And I mean, I've had the cold and the flu and COVID just slam me into a wall. And, I remember one time I was in Japan and I had to walk off stage in the middle of a show and get in a car and go to the hospital. I had 106 fever. I mean,
Wow.
it's one of those things where, I'm sorry, 104 fever. I'd be dead at
Oh,
106.
yeah.
But I had like, I was projectile vomiting 15 minutes after I had just finished a song. I mean,
Wow.
so sometimes, I know like audiences can get disappointed. I'll be reading it myself when I see a certain artist has to take some time away from performing. But you can't push it into the ground. It's only going to work if it's healthy. So
Yeah.
I do that. I make a point. I stopped working constantly. I used to literally just nonstop work. And when I decided to become a mom, I thought about it long and hard because I knew I'd have to make a choice. I was not going to drag my kids all over the country in a tour bus, and that was how they grew up. So I decided when I wanted to be a mom to change my life, and that's when I sat down in Vegas and did 8 shows a week for 2.5 years. And then my kids were coming out of the early stages of, when I started, they were in kindergarten and first grade. So then they got to where when mom was going to work at 8 o'clock, they're like, why, they weren't going to bed at 7:30 at night anymore. So I was like,
Right.
okay, my kids want me around. And so that's when I changed my schedule to working on the weekends. Then I paired that back to every other weekend. So now my kids are grown, they're 29 and 30, and I can go out and work more, but I don't want to go back to working every night God sends because I like my life now. I love the balance that I have. I love having a home life, a family and friends. I love going out and having that great experience that charges me up. I become a different person when I get on stage. It speaks to a whole different part of my heart and soul, and it charges that up. But also when I come home and I see my kids, that charges up another part of my soul, and I can't live
Yeah.
without either one of them. So I try to stay healthy to keep the instrument from failing, but I do acknowledge that um, it's not the same instrument that it was 45 years ago. But I my audiences come back over and over again, so they're not terribly disappointed. And I think one thing that is important to me is I don't lip sync. I know a lot of artists tend to do that,
Yeah.
and I won't do that. I won't fake it. If you hear me and I'm having a bad night, then that's me. And if you hear me and I'm having a good night, that's me. It's
Yeah.
it's real. And whenever I'm not able to be real anymore, then I won't do it anymore.
Interesting. Where are you residing these days? What area?
Vegas.
You're in
I'm in
Vegas. Okay.
Vegas. Yeah. When I came here to do the shows, my intent was originally, okay, when I finished, I thought, well, we could go back to California. We still had a place there. And my kids were like, no, because they had soccer teams and they had friends. And I had made good friends in Vegas too. So I thought, okay, we'll settle here for a while. And, 25, whatever, 30 years later, 25 years later, here we're still here. And I don't love the desert, don't get me wrong, but I travel enough that I get the East Coast and I get, Europe, I get Japan, I get different places and I get lush vegetation and greenery and architecture. And then when I come back to Vegas, I can appreciate Vegas for what it is. And, it gives me the best of both worlds.
That's so nice. Well, you're coming to Ram's Head on Stage in Annapolis next Tuesday,
Yes,
and,
yes.
ramsheadpresents.com. You can still get only a few tickets left. So people gotta hurry up to get those tickets. And you may see me. You may see me. I'm gonna try to make it to the show too. You have to have a crab cake when you're here.
Oh, a crab cake? I
No,
can't.
no
I
crab
don't
cakes?
I don't eat shellfish.
Oh, no
I'm
crab cakes.
I'm
Okay.
almost a vegetarian. I eat a little
Almost a
bit of fish,
vegetarian.
but
Okay.
not a lot. Yeah. But I'll
Okay.
find something to eat there. What else is good that isn't, you
Lita
know?
Ford loves the salad dressing.
What about the bread? Do y'all make great bread? I love bread, so. I'll
We have
find
lots
something,
of good
trust
bread
me.
here, and we have lots of good bread here in Maryland.
All
So
right,
you'll find
okay.
lots of delicious things to eat here in
All
Maryland.
right.
Um, I'm excited for you to do this tour. I'm excited for your holiday show with Peebo and Ruben. Wrapping up with the question that I ask everybody. Sheena Easton, what is your Goosey moment? Meaning that moment in your career or your life where you look down and you have goosebumps all up and down your arm and you're going, I can't believe this is my, like, I can't believe I get to do this. This is my moment. What's that Goosey moment? And I'm sure you have many.
The goosebump moment that I think of is my first record producer coming over to the house that I was staying at, wakening me up at about 4 or 5 in the morning, banging on the door, me having to come downstairs in my jammies into his car, and he turned on the car, the little cassette player in the car, and he played the mix because he'd been up all night mixing Morning Train 9 to 5. And it starts with boom, boom, but a boom, boom, boom. Ah, that great sax intro. And he went like that. He used to call me Killer, and he went, Killer, Killer, look at my arms, Killer. And he'd say, look at the hairs of my arms. It's a monster, Killer. This is going to be a monster. And it was the goosebumps on his arms that gave me like the hairs in the back of my neck. And I went, this does sound pretty good. And he cranked it up. And it was before my voice even came in, just the sound of that intro. And it was the excitement on his face. And so it made me kind of go, wow, I'm doing this. I'm actually recording. I'm in England recording my first album. This is me. This is real. This is something I get to do. And I think if I hadn't gone past that, that moment would still be something that make me go, wow, just
Wow.
amazing.
Oh, wow. That is a great Goosey moment, Sheena. Thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck on your tour. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you.